Audio Jungle.
Hello everybody and welcome, this is Roland from Graphic in Motion. In this tutorial I want to show you how to create some abstract tech HUD display elements, and I want to show you how you can create animation loops and how you can stylize them and colorize them in a very special way. I know that there are a lot of tutorials around the web which show you how to create these abstract shapes, but I got a message from a YouTube channel follower called Stackamati who wanted to have a tutorial which shows how he can create these shapes, and so I thought, okay, I will do a quick tutorial on how to make these shapes, but I will also show you how to make a loop animation and how to colorize them in a different way. So I just want to show you what I've got here. This is a design that I produced before. I will not rebuild this perfectly because it's a little bit too much detail, but I will go through the most important techniques how I built this, and I will also show you how to colorize this, because if you take a look here, I just have one effect on, which is called the CC toner, and with this effect I can stylize the whole look of this thing. And I will show you how you can set up your elements from the beginning so that this technique of colorizing will work. Okay, let's get started. Let's create a new composition. I want to make it 10 seconds long, full HD, and I call it my main element and press OK. First thing I want to do is to create a background, and this is a circular grid. And therefore I just create a new layer, a new solid, and I name this grid. Make composition size, don't care about the color, and I will go to my effect presets, and I already typed in grid here, so I will take the grid, drag it on top of my grid, and now I just want to change the size. Therefore I need my width and height sliders, and I want to change it, let's say, to 50 times 50, and I want the border to be 2. Okay, that looks quite good. And to make this a little bit more interesting, I now will just duplicate my grid layer, and I will just change the settings here, and I will rename the layer because actually I use this as a matte, so I will name it grid matte. And I will first of all invert the grid, so now the lines are dark and the squares are white. And now I want to change the size here, let's say to 100 times 100, and I also want to increase the border size, let's say about 20. And now you see what we have got here. And if I subtract the second grid from the first, or let's say the matte from our basic grid here, then you see what we'll get in a moment. So therefore I just have to change the track matte option to inverted luma matte, and now you see I've got some kind of technical interesting looking grid. Okay, let's pre-compose these two layers. I will go to layer and pre-compose and call this grid. Press OK. And now I want to have a circular shape here, so I have to create a mask. Therefore I go to my ellipse mask tool up here and just drag a mask, hold down Control, hold down Shift and drag around the middle here and release it. And now I press MM to reveal the mask options, and I will feather it out. 120 pixels looks quite good, or let's bring it in a little bit and just make it to about 250. Okay. The next thing that I want to do is I want to create these lines here. If you take a closer look, you see we have these now green dotted lines, and I will show you how to make these. So I go back to my main element, and therefore I want to just create a new shape layer, and I need a rectangle for this one. So I just will drag in a rectangle here. I really don't care about the size now. I will adjust this later in the settings. So first thing, we do not want the stroke here, so we go up to the stroke options and select none here, and I want to fill, so I will select the fill color, and I want to change the color to a mid-tone gray. So let's say this 808080 is quite good. So I press OK, and now I just want to go to my content and change the size of the rectangle. So I want to go to the rectangle path, and I really want this to be small, so let's say 10 times 2 or something like this. Now you see it's very small. In fact, let's make it about 5 size, and 18.9 should be alright. And what I want to do now is, but now I think it's a little bit too big. So okay, let's go back to the 2 now, or the 3. Yeah, like this. I want to be sure that this is really in the middle of the composition. So I will go to the transform rectangle. I want to take a look, and you see that now we have -5, and I want to set this to 0, and now it's perfectly on the right position and the Y position. I don't care about the X position now, just want to be in the middle of the composition here. Okay, now I want to take a repeater. Therefore I just press this little triangle here at the add button, and then I choose my repeater, and now I can change the values here, and I want to make way more copies than 3. Let's say I want to make about 20 copies. And okay, I just will disable the grid for now so that we can see what we are doing. And you see that now I have too much spacing between these lines, so I have to change this, and therefore I have to go to the transform repeater, and I have to change this position, because now every 100 pixels it creates one copy, and I just want to lower this value. So let's say about, make it 25 pixels or so. And now we can just enable our grid and increase our value of copy so that we can cross this, like let's say about there. This is pretty good. And now I just want to duplicate this shape layer, rotate it by 90 degrees. Now duplicate it again, rotate it by 45 degrees, duplicate it again and rotate it by 315 degrees. Okay, now you see that we have these lines here. And now I want to pre-compose these lines. So select all the layers and go to Layer Pre-compose and call them lines. Enter. And now I want to take some masks and make this a little bit more interesting. So I will again take my ellipse tool, and from the middle I will drag, oops, sorry, I didn't want to create a shape, I just have to select my composition. And I want to drag a circular mask. I hold down Shift and I hold down Alt, not Alt, I hold down Shift and Control. And I drag out here like this. And now I will press MM to reveal the mask settings, and again take more or less the same values than before, so 250, and bring this in a little bit. Okay, and now I want to duplicate this mask, and I want to hold down Shift and just and Control and just make it smaller, and change to subtract, and now just decrease the value here and decrease this value, increase so that we have nearly, so that it doesn't cross in the middle. Okay, let's say this is exactly what we want. Okay, the next thing I want to do is to create some circular shapes here. So I will just take the ellipse tool again, and I will create a new shape layer. So I will again drag, hold down Shift and Control, and create our first shape. So I just will get rid of the fill option here, choose none, okay, and I want this time I want to have a stroke here, and I want this stroke to be pure white. Okay, and I don't want to be that thick, so let's say about 35. And okay, and I just want to create, let's say, 3 segments here that rotate in a special direction. So I will go to my content and to my ellipse here, and then I can go to the stroke option, and I just have to press the plus at the dashes here. So I will press this, and you see what happens. It splits up our line into dashes. But I don't like the value. This is way too much, so I will just increase this value until I have only 3 of the same size. Let's say like this. Okay. And let's say I want them to rotate counterclockwise, and I want this to loop. So I select my layer and press R to reveal the rotation, and I set the keyframe on first frame at degree 0, and I move to 5 seconds, and I want to set it to 1 rotation. And now I just want to create a loop. Oh, now they rotate clockwise, not counterclockwise, so I will set this to -1. Okay. Now they should rotate counterclockwise. Yes, perfect. And now I want this to loop out. And there's a very simple expression I want to use. Therefore, I just alt-click a stopwatch here and type in loop out. The O has to be big in this case, and parentheses and quotation marks. And now I can type in cycle, quotation marks, and close the parentheses and the semicolon here. And now you see what this does, is that it loops out our animation. And so if I make a quick render or a quick RAM preview, you will see that this really loops seamlessly. So we have a perfect 10 seconds long loop. So, and this is exactly what we want to have. It really creates a seamless 10 seconds long loop. Okay. Next thing I want to do, I want to create a smaller circle and with the same size, which just connects these elements. But let's say I want to increase the width a little bit here so that they're a little bit bigger. Let's say maybe 50. Okay, so I will duplicate this circle. I will call this segment 1, and this will be my outer circle. Okay, and now I just will change my settings here a little bit. So I want to get rid of the dashes first. So I will set this to minus, and now I just want to decrease this, let's say to 10, that we have a thin line, or even smaller to 5. And now I want to change the color of this circle, the stroke color, and I want to set this to black now. And this will be important afterwards when we're going to colorize the whole thing. So maybe that we can see this better, I will just create a new background. So I will create a new solid and give it some strange color so that we can see everything on it, the white, the black, and the gray. So I will take this red here and just drop it behind so that I just can see what's happening here. And the next thing I want to do is that our outer circle is below our segments so that they do not intersect here. Yeah, that's what I'm looking for. The next thing that I want to do is I want to create a small object that's kind of a compass object for the middle here. So I will get rid of all of this so that I have a clean working space and I see what I'm doing. Now I want to create again a rectangle shape. So we take the rectangle tool and I just draw some kind of a shape. I don't care about the size now. We want this to have no stroke, so we select none the stroke options, and we want to have a fill here. and press OK. And let's say the color this time should be white. The first lines are white. So choose white, and now we go to our rectangle content here and rectangle path, and I want to change the size, and I don't want this to be linked, so I really want to manually change it, and this should be pretty small again, so let's say 10 times 2. And now I have to go to the transform position because I really again want this to be at point 0, and now I have to turn on my segments for a moment to see what's happening, and I don't want this to be so far out. I want this to be about, let's say, 115. Okay, so disable these again, and now I need a repeater again. So let's take add repeater, and what I want to do now is that I want to repeat this exactly 180 times, so that I have more or less every 2 degrees in a circle one of these small rectangles here. So I put in 180 copies, and transform repeater, I will set this to 0, and now I rotate this, and I want to set it to 2 because I want to have, well, let's say this is nearly too much, you know, let's decrease this to 90 and set this to 4. Now we have a circle. I will just increase the resolution here, which has 90 strokes, so every 4 degrees we have 1 stroke. Let's say this is cool for now. Okay. The next thing I want to do is that I want to duplicate this segment circle and just change some values. So now I call this, let's say, degrees small, and now I want to create some bigger ones, and therefore I just have to change the rectangle content. So let's go to the rectangle path here, and let's say we want to change this not to 10, but we want to make this bigger, but that's too much. Let's say 20. And then I want to change the repeater options, so we do not want 90 copies. Now we only want, let's say, that there are only 4 of these, so we just take 4 copies. And now we set the transform repeater not to 4 degrees, but to 90 degrees. And you see now we have these exactly at, let's say, north and east and south and west. And the only thing I have to adjust is the position a little bit, so I just will adjust this like this. You see that it's not perfectly accurate because I took the smaller circles every 4 degrees, and now we have these inside these 2 here. What we could do is probably just increase it a little bit. Let's say we make 8 copies, and we don't want them to be a 90 degree spread, but 45 degree spread. Then it looks like this. Looks even shittier because I didn't calculate the other ones very good. So I will change this and just set this to better values so it looks a little bit better. So we go to the repeater, and we don't want to have 90. We just want to have, let's say, every 5 degrees. So we don't need 90 copies now, we just need 72, because 360 divided by 5 is exactly 72. And now you see that this looks quite nice. Okay, let's move on. So degrees small, degrees large. And now we will create an outer circle. Therefore I just will take my ellipse tool again and draw a circle here, hold down shift, hold down control, and size it approximately as our circle here. And we do not need any fill here, we need a stroke, and I want to change the stroke color this time to my mid-gray here. That was 808080. Okay, and now you see it's not in the right position. So I want to change this, and therefore I have to go to my ellipse and to transform ellipse and set this to 0 and 0. Okay, now let's take a closer look. That looks quite good. The next thing I want to do is that I really want to match the colors. I want these bigger degrees to be the same color as my stroke, and I want the stroke to be a little bit thinner. So I just set this to 2, or no, this is, let's say, sorry, to 4. And now I don't want some space between them, so I just will decrease the ellipse path a little bit, like this. And now I select my large degrees, and I take my fill color and also set this to my 808080 and press OK. Well, this is it. So we can pre-compose this now, and I can call this outer circle and pre-compose our compass circle. And this is our segment circle 1. I will pre-compose this too. Segment circle 1. Okay, let's say the next thing I want to show you is how to change the color here to have better contrast. The next thing that I want to do is to create some small elements within our compass here, which will move randomly. So I will enter the compass composition again. And now I just want to have some point in the middle here. And therefore I will just create another circle. So take the ellipse tool, hold down Shift, hold down Control, drag a small circle, and go to ellipse settings, transform ellipse, set it to 0 and 0. And I want this in a black color, so I don't need a stroke here. Actually, we could use a stroke too. Let's do it, why not? So we use a stroke and we use a fill. Okay. And the next thing I want to do is to create some small triangles here. So what are we going to do here? I will just create a new layer, and this time I want to create a rectangular layer. And I will drag a rectangle, and I will hold down Shift so that it really will be a rectangle. And let's say like this is okay. And now I want to change the transform settings here to 0, 0, so that I know that it's really in the middle. And I do not want this to have a stroke, no stroke, but I want to have a fill on this one. So I change my fill color to white this time. Okay. And now I just want to duplicate this. And this time I will rotate this to about 45 degrees. And the next thing we are going to do is very funny. We will just take an inverted alphabet. And you see what we have got here. We have triangles now. And so I will just pre-compose these elements now and call them triangles. Okay. And I will rotate them so that they start really north, east, south, and west. Okay, and the next thing I want to do is to animate these triangles rotating randomly and create a random loop. And therefore we will need some expression which allows us to loop a wiggle. And I didn't find a solution on my own here, so I searched the internet and I found this very, very useful website from Dan Eberts. It's called motionscripts.com. I can really recommend it. If you need to find some really cool and expert expressions, then you should visit Motion Scripts. And I really want to thank Dan a lot for sharing his knowledge with us, and this makes it possible that I can show you what we will do here. I do not want to explain this expression because, in fact, I can only read out his explanations here because I do not exactly know how it works by myself, but I can show you how you will find it. So go to Motion Scripts and then just search for the looping wiggle, and then we take exactly this part of the expression and we just copy it, and we go to our triangles and alt select our rotation, and now we paste this expression line in here. And now we just have to change a few settings. So we want our loop time is 10 seconds because we want to have a 10 seconds long seamless loop. So we want to change the value 3 here to 10. And we can also change the frequency and we can change the value. So the frequency is like in the normal wiggle. This time he will change 1 time per second for 110 degrees in our case. And let's say we want to keep the 1 time a second, but we want to increase this value to, let's say, 270 degrees. And now we can see what this will do. I will just render it for a quick RAM preview so we will see what it's doing. And this looks kind of, the magnet field of the Earth really goes crazy. So now you know how you can create random or wiggle loops, I should say, in this case. So you can see that this really is a seamless loop, but maybe it's a little bit too much. So let's decrease our frequency to 0.5. So then it will change the value in 2 seconds. And I also want to change my value from 270 to, let's say, 360 here. And let's see what this does. Create a quick RAM preview. And now you see that this looks pretty good. Okay, so let's go back to our main segment or main element. And I just want to create one more object now, and then I just want to quickly show how to colorize it, and then we are finished with this torture program here. So, one more segment circle. Let's take our ellipse tool here, and now we will create one more circle. So drag, oops, sorry, I don't want to take this, I want to create a new layer. Hold down Shift, hold down Control, and we make this circle like in the middle between these. And I want to drag it below our compass. And now I just want to get rid of the fill here. Okay. And I want to get some stroke effect here, and in fact the color is okay, but I really want this to be a thick one. So let's say at least like this, or let's say like this, and I will bring down our radius a little bit. So the size, let's decrease the size a little bit like this. And now I want to add some dashes here again. And I want to increase the value so that we have about 3 or 4, or we can also take 2. Let's take 2 here. And now we will just really lower the opacity here to about 50. And now we'll duplicate this layer, and I will change the stroke color from gray to white, and I will just change the stroke options and the dashes, and I want to just decrease this value so that we have, let's say, about another value here, let's say about 3. And the transparency is fine, and now I want to rotate wiggle them. So let's just alt click our first segments here and paste in our expression because I still had the expression in the memory. And now frequency will be, let's say, 0.5, and this time let's say about 360. Our loop time is 10 seconds. Okay, now I copy this expression and I will paste it into our other segments, and now I will change this to about 0.3 and leave the 360, and so now there should be a nice random movement which should loop if we are lucky. So just let's make a quick ramp preview here. Okay, you see that these things are behaving quite randomly, and I think that this is pretty cool. And now, of course, I could add many other objects and many other circular shapes and lines and degree lines and everything. But I just wanted to give you a brief overview. I mean, this tutorial already lasted about half an hour. So I will come to an end here by showing you how you can now colorize this. Therefore, we get rid of our dark solid here, or dark red solid. And we will just create a new adjustment layer. But just to make it nice, let's pre-compose these two and call them big segments. Okay. And now on this adjustment layer, we want to apply the effect called CC Toner. And just apply it. And CC Toner does something really cool. You can adjust the colors of the highlights, the midtones, and the shadows. So in our composition, we have white elements, we have gray elements, and we have black elements. And now we want to assign some colors. So let's say we want to make the black elements like some kind of blue here. Okay, now we take the midtone elements, some kind of another kind of blue, something like this, and we want these to be yellow or whatever, you know, or greenish. I'm not thinking about too much about the coloring now. I just want to show you how to basically do it. And of course, if you say, well, you know, now you could also say, nah, I don't like that, for example, these big segments have the same color than these. So I can just go into my big segment section, and let's say that I take my white segments here and change this white to black. And okay, and now if I go back to my elements here, you see that now the segments have the same color as our black lines. So this is a very easy way to colorize such segments and give them really different colors. And you can of course also animate these, you know, you could change the colors over time and everything. So now I hope that you liked the tutorial. I hope that I could show you some new techniques here. And what I also want to point out is that I will release a free bundle containing all these shapes that I did already while preparing for this tutorial, and you will be able to download them soon. So there you can find some more techniques, some little bit more detailed designs, and it will be a free download and it will be free to use for you. So I thank you very much for watching, and I hope that you will really be able to make a better color design than I did here. I'm sure you will be able to do that. And I'm looking forward to see you soon. Bye.
Audio Jungle.